Mel Kiper Jr.'s latest QB big board features the last two Heisman Trophy winners you see there in the 1 and 2 spots, as well as the two quarterbacks who played in this year's national championship game you see there in the 4 and 5 spots. So it's time now for Trader Mike's with Mike Tannenbaum. Mike, give us a couple of quarterback-related draft trades you would like to see done this season.
All right, Graz, first one. The Atlanta Falcons going from the 8th pick to the 3rd pick, and they're going to get one of the 3 best quarterbacks. New England will move back to the 8th spot, get a 1 next year, and they'll get one of the big 3. And to me, it's likely going to be either Jaden Daniels or Drake May. I think Caleb Williams goes 1 overall, but now all of a sudden Atlanta gets that very coveted quarterback that they need to grow with all those other young weapons.
All right, I want to run this by Mr. Atlanta, Harry Douglas. What do you think about this move, Harry?
I like this trade a lot. You talk about the Atlanta Falcons. You look at the last 24 years. They drafted Michael Vick in 2001, number 1 overall, franchise changer. 2008, they drafted Matt Ryan, 3rd overall, franchise changer. So for the Atlanta Falcons moving forward, you want that franchise-changing quarterback that's young. You move up at number 3 and try to go get one of them.
Mike T suggesting a big move up to 3 for Atlanta. What do you think about that, Jeff? The Patriots at 3, do they need to stay put and take a quarterback, or should they be thinking about trading down?
Yeah, I think it's going to depend on how they evaluate these guys, but this is still better than Russell Wilson to the Jets, is all I... everything is set.
We got plenty of time here, Jeff.
Jeff's been waiting since yesterday to tee off on Mike.
Let's see where he goes.
That's a tease. We are going to get to that again. But Mike T, in the meantime, give us another draft trade you'd like to see.
Okay, Las Vegas Raiders, they're going to need a quarterback. They're cutting Jimmy G, so they have to get up. So in this trade, they're going all the way up to number 2. That's going to cost a lot. That's going to cost this year's first-round pick. It's going to cost them a second-round pick, next year's one, and a really good young player in Michael Mayer. Now, if you're Washington, boy, now you're really recouping on the fly. You have Sam Howell. You still have a chance of getting maybe J.J. McCarthy. I think this is a real win-win for both teams.
What do you think of this one, Jeff?
I think the Commanders just have to know what they're going to do at quarterback. I like the idea of building picks, but they're in this coveted number 2 spot where they can get a franchise guy if they they can either move up to 1 or get him at 2. But I just think that they got to come out of this draft, in my opinion, with one of those big 3 quarterbacks.
Harry, do you agree the Commanders need a quarterback with one of those 2 picks?
Yeah, we also got to remember, this is a new ownership group with the Josh Harris group. And they're trying to change a lot of things and reset things amongst that franchise. So I think a franchise quarterback will be a big need and something that also the city and the area needs as well.
Mike T, give us one more team that needs to trade up for a quarterback in the draft.
New York Giants. It hasn't worked out with Daniel Jones. He has 1 year to go. So let's go all the way up to number 1. In this scenario, the Bears keep Justin Fields. And look at the haul they get. They're still picking in the top 6, and then they come out with a 2, a 1, and a 2 next year, and a really good young pass rusher in Kayvon Thibodeau to pair with Montez Sweat. And now, if you're the New York Giants, you get Caleb Williams.
They got Daniel Jones still on the books for 30 million, 34 million this year. Harry, what do you think about the Giants making a big move like that to get to the number 1 pick?
Ooh, I like it for the Giants because I don't believe in Daniel Jones, but for the Chicago Bears, this will be three opportunities that they had to get their franchise quarterback moving forward, but also resetting the market quarterback-wise. So I don't like it for the Chicago Bears moving forward.
What do you think, Jeff?
I just don't see it as a possibility. I mean, I could be wrong here just from the standpoint that the Giants committed to Daniel Jones. Like, love it or hate it, they kind of are stuck with it in some capacity, at least in terms of, if they're going to find a replacement for Daniel Jones, to me it has to be in a later round that they just nail, like Brock Purdy kind of deal. I just don't necessarily think they can go all the way up to get 1, given what they did with Jones.
Man, that's a tough plan to execute. Wait around and get your franchise quarterback with the last pick. I don't know too many teams.
I hear you.
Yeah, that have been able to pull that off. How about you guys? Who do you,
Jeff, where they're at, though.
Which team do you think needs to trade up to get their quarterback in this draft? Jeff?
So I think Washington at 2, but it's one of the most fascinating drafts that I can remember at the top, just because, first of all, we start with the Bears, who have to make the decision on Justin Fields, but are in a position to get so much for that pick. And then you move to the Commanders, who might be the most QB-needy team in this whole draft at number 2. So, and all the plethora of other teams that Mike T just threw out the Giants. There's a host of other teams that could move up. So whatever happens at 1 and 2, you could convince me right now of about 100 different scenarios that I would believe. So fascinating in the coming months.
What would that deal look like to go from 2 to 1, Mike?
Boy, it would probably be a 1 next year. And again, Ryan Poles has done a great job of maximizing that value. So, there's a lot of, connected the dots, Cliff Kingsbury coming over from SC with Washington. So if I was Chicago and I loved Drake May or Jaden Daniels, I would consider it. But for me, let's not overcomplicate things. As Harry alluded to, let's just take Caleb Williams if we're the Bears.
Yeah, I would think that's the most likely. Harry, what do you think about teams that should move? Do you have your eye on a team that should move up and draft a quarterback at the top of the draft?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. If they feel like the quarterback market is not what they deem it should be for their football team moving forward, you talk about young players and young offensive weapons. They have a solid offensive line. They have 2 stout running backs in Tyler Algier, who eclipsed 1,000 yards in his rookie year. I had a solid second year as well. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Jonnu Smith, Drake London. So think about all those guys with a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, getting them the football, but also a threat rushing the football as well. So I like the Atlanta Falcons moving up at 3.
It'd be interesting. Whoever ends up being quarterback for the Falcons is going to show up and look around and be like, man, I got some people I can throw the ball to, no?
Yeah, totally agree.
Absolutely. And I think, when you start connecting the dots, guys, maybe it's Justin Fields in a trade, but if not, I think at 8, you're really in no man's land, and that's why I think Atlanta's the team of all these scenarios that, to me, to get at least to 3 makes a ton of sense.
Jeff, you agree on Atlanta?
I think that's the ultimate trump card. Justin Fields, by the way, from Atlanta. Yeah. That'd be perfect. Nearby. I just think that Justin Fields card, you do take Caleb Williams, well, then the fascination becomes what happens to Justin Fields, who a lot of teams will give up a lot for, namely, the Atlanta Falcons. That's a great call.
The NFL's franchise tag window opens today. It's the first day in a 2-week window where teams can designate players as franchise players, keep them off the free agent market. And one of the top candidates for the tag, once again, is Giants running back Saquon Barkley. We just saw him recently this weekend, in fact, at the NHL Stadium Series at MetLife Stadium. He was tagged by the Giants last year, so this year it's going to cost them about $12 million if they want to do it again. A lot of uncertainty around this situation, but Saquon has made it clear he wants to stay. He told the New York Post during Super Bowl week, quote, "They know where I want to be. Ownership said they want me to be a Giant for life, too. Last year, we tried our best at the end. Business happened, and we didn't get it done." So back at the top of the show, we're playing tag or no tag. Mike T said Saquon should not be tagged by the Giants. If he was the Giants, he would not use the tag on Saquon for the second year in a row. Jeff, do you agree with Mike?
I do agree with Mike. $12 million suddenly is even richer for a running back. Saquon about business last year not being able to get done. Well, unfortunately for the running backs, business is no better this year. I remember talking to a general manager last offseason talking about how this was going to be the saturated market in 2024. There was no reason to pay running backs last year, and it's going to get even more difficult this year. So if you're the Giants, I don't think you look at Saquon Barkley and say, yeah, he's now earned even more than we were going to give him last year. It's, to me, not going to get done. The Giants should simply not tag him, look elsewhere, and see ultimately how this running back market fleshes out.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, remember last year the running back market was a big story, and it sounds like it will be again, and not in the way that the running backs wish it would. So look, if he is a free agent, which team out there, if you were a team out there, who would be excited about bringing in Saquon Barkley? Who should pursue him?
Guys, this one's easy. It's the Dallas Cowboys. Tony Pollard was mildly disappointing replacing Zeke Elliott. His production went down by about 25%, as Hembo reminded me. So when you're looking at free agency, the first thing you do is say, if we're going to go outside our building, who can we get in the division to help us and hurt our opponent? And trust me, the last thing the New York Giants want to see, if Saquon Barkley graduates this year, is him with a star on the side of his helmet. Could you imagine the first time Dallas rolls into town with Saquon as a Cowboy? And he would be perfect because he can catch, he can run. I think his pass protection has actually gotten better. And based on the way Tony Pollard plays, I actually think he would improve that position for the 2024 Cowboys.
Jeff, you like Buffalo, it said there on the bottom? There you go. You like Buffalo for Saquon?
Yeah. With a massive disclaimer, it's about value. And I think that running backs are going to come at a great value because of the saturated market. The Bills do need somebody to complement James Cook, and I think Saquon would be awesome at it. But at what cost? I also think the Cowboys, all of these teams make sense. But again, at what cost? I don't see a team overpaying. You saw the graphic up there on the bar there, $14 million for several running backs. I don't think any running back is going to get $14 million for a very long time until it's a guy like Christian McCaffrey again. I just think that the Bills could go get someone like him as long as the cost is, honestly, $10 million a year.
Harry's team is the Texans, which has obviously coming off of C.J. Stroud's big rookie year, trying to maximize things around their young quarterback. Harry, why do you like Saquon in Houston?
Well, number one, you look at the Houston Texans, they have a ton of cap space. And if you're Saquon Barkley, you say to yourself, I'm not going to have to pay state income tax in the state of Texas as well down in Houston. But you look at how Christian McCaffrey was used with the San Francisco 49ers. Bobby Slowick came from that Shanahan tree. You talk about a guy that can be a threat out of the backfield as a pass catcher, running H choice, being matched up against linebackers, wheel routes, rail routes down the sideline, being able to do a variety of different things. And you got C.J. Stroud for the next 3 years is only going to count $30 million versus the cap. So I think if you're Houston, you say, our time right now, that window is open. Let's go ahead and try to make a splash and make things happen.
And you see there, I put Baltimore just because, they got Dobbins and Gus Edwards free agents. They're going to need somebody. But, that's my point. They need somebody, but, is Saquon even the best option out there? This running back market that Jeff's talking about, it's a buyer's market, right? You're going to be able to pick whoever you want.
Yeah, Graz, I agree with what Jeff said. You look at the supply here, it's unbelievable. And a couple of those guys going back a year ago, Dan, Tony Pollard, Saquon, Josh Jacobs, they were all franchised. And you can see paying these guys 1 year at a time, there's tremendous value. So I do think $12 million is really high. Now, look, for the guys that are explosive and third down difference makers, like what Pollard should have been, what Saquon is, there may be a little bit more value there. But I think $12 million is probably the ceiling. I think we're below 10. And I think patience will be well served for these teams to say, I can even get a guy maybe after the draft.
Right or wrong, NFL offseason edition. Harry Douglas, if I said to you the Steelers are the best fit for Justin Fields, am I right or wrong?
I'm going to go wrong. I'm going to go the Atlanta Falcons, and here are some of the reasons why. You talk about the NFC South versus the AFC North. Competing in that division, the NFC South is easier. I also believe the young, phenomenal talent that the Atlanta Falcons have offensively, those guys will be easier to work with as well. And then last but not least, you talk about Justin Fields being from Atlanta, Georgia. He will be home and he will be the most comfortable as well. So those are the three main reasons why I say Atlanta.
Jeff, what do you think about the idea of Fields on the Steelers?
Fields on the Steelers, I'm not ready to think that that's going to put them over the hump yet. I just don't think that the Steelers are quite a quarterback away from being a championship contender, especially in that division.
I think he's perfect for Pittsburgh. I think Justin Fields is very similar to Ryan Tannehill, someone that had a ton of success with Arthur Smith in Tennessee, the new offensive coordinator in Pittsburgh. They have a lot of really good weapons that have been underutilized. So I think Fields and Pittsburgh is a great marriage and makes Pittsburgh a lot more competitive next year.
Where Fields goes, obviously one of the big offseason storylines we are tracking. Jeff, if I said the Cowboys should pursue Derrick Henry, am I right or wrong?
I'm going to say wrong, not because this wouldn't be a decent fit and not because ultimately it won't happen. It could, but I think that the Dolphins or the Ravens are teams that could pursue him with better kind of strength, because the Cowboys, until they extend Dak Prescott with that $60 million hit coming up, they're currently $20 million over the cap, just from a logistics standpoint. I get the idea of it, very cool, but logistically, I don't think the Cowboys can be in the market for any types of shiny new objects.
Yeah, nor are the Dolphins until they figure out Christian Wilkins, and they're over the cap by about $50 million. So I don't think Derrick Henry will be going there either. But to me, like, what's great about Derrick Henry and the Cowboys, to me, Graz, is the old pass to score and run to win. He's a great closer, and wear down opposing teams' defenses. No one's going to want to tackle him in the second half. And for all those close games they play, I think he'd be a great fit there.
Harry, you agree?
Yeah, I do, because the Cowboys are one-dimensional. And in my opinion, if you're going to win a Super Bowl in today's age, you can't be one-dimensional unless you have a guy like Patrick Mahomes. But even they are able to rush the football effectively when they need to. I think they relied so much on Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb and that combination. You add a Derrick Henry, you add a lot more balance to that offense, and I think the Dallas Cowboys are sitting in a great position.